When we take time to pause and consider, instead of rush in with a spirit of confrontation, we can foster connection with our boundaries instead of piling up brick walls. Hi there, I'm Vanessa Kaiser, a ranch girl turned social worker, business leader, and now entrepreneur. I'm passionate about diving into organization, leadership, personal growth, and efficiency. Around here, we call it rhythmic living, that continuous cycle of assessing the season of life that we're in and creating habits, routines, and processes that serve us best. This show is for the busy, the dreamers, the tired, the go-getters, those who want to live fully, grow steadily, and feel inspired each day. Welcome to the Inspiring Heights podcast. Welcome to A Christmas Present, strategies for juggling jingle bells and joy. In this special series, we are diving into the top 4 holiday topics requested by you, our listeners, and sharing tips for embracing both the joys and the challenges of this beautiful season. Each episode begins with the 3 most frequently asked questions about the day's topic, along with my insights. From there, we'll explore 5 practical strategies for leaning into the theme and making the most of this time. Thank you so much for joining us for this holiday season series. Now, as Santa would say, on Dasher, on Dancer, on Prancer, we got places to go. Hey you, can I ask you something? Does your to-do list ever feel like it's running you instead of the other way around? Do you find yourself wishing for more time, less chaos, and a whole lot more peace? Trust me, I've been there. And that's exactly why I created the Productivity Playbook, Strategies for a Harmonious Life. This course isn't about cramming more into your day. It's about creating a life that actually feels good to live. We'll dive into time management strategies that work, build routines that bring peace instead of pressure, and tackle those overwhelming moments with confidence. Whether you're juggling work and family, managing a business, or just trying to stay sane in a busy season, this course is here to help you take a breath, take control, and build a present and fulfilling life. Ready to take the next step? Head over to inspiringheights.org/courses and grab your spot in the Productivity Playbook today. Because a harmonious life isn't just possible, it's waiting for you. Let's do this together. I'll link this all for you in the show notes. Family dynamics around the holidays aren't always as they seem on a Hallmark Christmas movie. Am I right? For some people, it really is the warm homecoming welcome every year, where mom bakes her famous cookies and makes eggnog from scratch. Both parents greet you with a warm and hearty, "Oh, it's been too long. I'm so glad you're home." And for others, it's not quite so cozy. Maybe home isn't cozy. Maybe parents aren't overly excited that you're there. Siblings stand ready to pick a fight with anyone and everyone who will engage. And your aunt, drenched in too much perfume, insists on asking you the most personal questions in her loudest voice around the dinner table. Like, "How come you haven't had any babysit, girl? You know you're growing older by the minute, right?" Yeah, family dynamics can be tricky to navigate. And the truth is, they can be hard any time of the year. But during the holiday season, it seems like the complication factor rises. Perhaps it's because we're together more during this time of year. Maybe it's because there's this worldwide unspoken expectation that Christmas is supposed to magically wipe away all of the hard and usher in only the best. Personally, I think it's a combination of all of the above, and honestly, probably more. Let's start by exploring the 3 most frequently asked questions about managing family dynamics during the Christmas season. Question number 1. What is the best way to keep the peace when political or sensitive topics come up? This is a good question, especially with this year being an election year. Politics seem almost like an inevitable subject around the Christmas dinner table. Here's the thing about politics. Sometimes conversations around topics such as this can be both wildly entertaining and growing to participate in. This is if everyone involved has a decent level of emotional maturity, politics aren't their life, and they understand that while the debate can be fun and they may learn a thing or two or teach a thing or two, they are not likely to change the mind of their opponent. And that ultimately doesn't stand as their goal. Now, you tell me the last time that all three of those things were true when it came to a conversation about politics, because I would love to listen in on that debate. We all know what the reality is far too often when it comes to the conversation about topics like politics. People take it personally. They believe they really can change the mind of a lifelong Democrat or a lifelong Republican by presenting their position with authority and sometimes even volume. And then they'll spend the rest of the time stewing about what was said, what they should have said, and how someone in their family could honestly believe what Uncle Sal says he believes. My best advice when it comes to matters such as politics is to leave them sit on the table and walk your happy self away. Unless you know that you are engaging with someone who is emotionally mature, I say this conversation isn't worth it. Not at Christmas. Not if it's going to ruin the day or the weekend. You can approach the conversation with humor, like, I don't know if we want to get into that right now. The football game starts in 2 hours, doesn't it? Or, I forgot to tell you, Santa called last night and he said if you want to stay on the nice list, politics have to wait until the new year. If humor isn't really your thing, try nodding, smiling, and literally walking away, or gracefully changing the subject. If neither of those tactics seem to be working, you can try to be a bit more direct. Election season about did me in. I'm taking a little break from thinking and talking about politics. Here's the biggest thing. Keep it kind, don't bite on the sparks, and know your boundaries. Question number 2. What should I do if a family member is difficult or critical? Dealing with difficult conversations extend past politics. Sometimes there's people in our lives who are critical of our every move. Like, wow, that sweater sure fit you a little better last year, didn't it? Is that gray in your hair? Girl, have you ever heard of hair dye? Oh, wow, sugar cookies. How original. Not always, but so often, doesn't it seem like these hurtful things are said under the banner of humor? And it's a tricky tactic because if we respond with a serious answer, it can make us seem like we're being aggressive or we can't, quote, handle a joke. In a lot of ways, I think we can handle this best with some self-work before we get into the conversation. Do you have a sibling who always seems to rub you the wrong way when you get together for a substantial amount of time? Maybe a parent who wears on your nerves or the nerves of your spouse? Knowing that before the holiday time together approaches, sit down and ask yourself and your spouse, if applicable, some of these questions. How am I going to respond to criticism? How am I going to set boundaries with my family? What do I believe about myself? The last question may seem a little strange, but let me tell you about it. If we go into these situations with a firm grasp on what we believe about our own selves and lives, we can go in with confidence. I'm not prescribing arrogance here, to be clear, but sister, holding confidence in who we are is important. A quick note on the first 2 questions. They seem vague and almost like, isn't the question how to deal with criticism? And you're telling me that I have to answer that question for myself? Well, yeah. The conversation on boundaries will come more below, and I think that will help you in answering some of these questions here. But also, we're all different. We have different personalities. So if I give you a play-by-play on how to respond to hurtful comments, it may be normal for you, or it may be totally out of the ordinary and seem awkward and exacerbate the whole issue. You know your family dynamics. You know you. If you spend some time really thinking about it, you can walk in prepared. Some of my same words of advice for how to engage in the politics conversation apply here as well. Walk away when you can. Don't engage when you don't have to. Set a boundary. Like, hey, maybe you meant that as a joke, but it didn't seem funny to me. that topic is a little tender to me, and I'd ask you not to talk about it with me. And when appropriate, deflect with humor. Yeah, I'm a social worker. No, I don't think this is always a healthy or unhealthy way to engage. I think it depends on the situation, your personality, and the words that were spoken. The underlying tip here is this: don't make the situation bigger. Pull someone out to the side if you can. Have it in the front of your mind. How do I respond without adding gasoline to this spark? If criticism is a favorite part of one or more of your family members, they are probably looking for a show. One way you can shut them down is to not take the bait. Question number 3. What's the best way to manage gift giving when our family has different financial situations? This is an excellent question, and it's honestly one that probably most families are going to have to walk through at some point. Here's the thing about gift giving. It means different things to different people. For example, one of the dynamics in my family is that I love, with a capital LOVE, gifts. I love to give gifts and I love to receive gifts. It delights me. It brings me joy. I have siblings who would much rather say, let's not buy gifts this year and just take a trip to Hawaii instead. Ugh, that sounds absolutely dreadful to me. But it has brought up conversations through the years, especially as their families have grown with the gift of children. How do we gift well, with intentionality, keeping it fun, and within everyone's ever-changing budget? Our solution? We draw names. We draw the names of the person that we're giving our big gift to, and then we buy smaller gifts and stocking stuffers for everyone else. Drawing gifts isn't for everyone, but here's the lesson from it. Having a conversation with the key players and coming up with some creative solutions that work for everyone is one life-giving way to manage gift giving. Sometimes we can feel shy about approaching this topic, especially if we are well aware that our financial situation is different than others in our family. But chances are there's someone else in the group who feels exactly like you do and will be grateful for your bravery. If that just doesn't exist within your family dynamic, here's another foundational approach. Communicating in advance what people can expect from you. This can be very vulnerable, I understand, but before you run away thinking, heck no, lady, hear me out. You don't have to share your deep, dark financials with your family. The text doesn't have to read, we made some poor investment choices this year, and now we can't afford more than $10 Christmas gifts for each of you. So sorry. No, you can keep it high level, vague, and, when appropriate, use humor. Perhaps your communication could read something like, hey family, so looking forward to spending Christmas with all of you. It has always been such a joy to exchange gifts with everyone. That said, I do want you to know that our Christmas budget is a little lighter this year. Inflation, am I right? Anywho, I just didn't want anyone to feel disappointed. Thanks for understanding. Sending that text may sound incredibly awkward, but is a few moments of awkward worth all the time that you're going to get back from having anxiety about what everyone is going to think from the time you purchase a gift until the time they open it? I say a hearty yes to that. Do you ever wish there was a natural, science-backed way to ease aches, boost your mood, and even support healthier skin? I felt the same way until a friend introduced me to LumiBox. Not too long ago, I was venting about long-time ankle pain to one of my girlfriends, and she encouraged me to check out LumiBox, a red light therapy device. She brought it with her for a girls' weekend because this is what it's like to be in your 30s, my friend. I gave it a whirl, and after just a couple of days, I can honestly tell you I was sold. That was the beginning of my journey with this incredible tool for holistic health. Now, LumiBox is a Kaiser family favorite. We use it for everything from soothing aches and eczema to giving our mood a gentle lift on tough days. Here's the deal. LumiBox harnesses the power of red light and near-infrared wavelengths to promote healing deep beneath the skin. Backed by science and loved by so many, it's a simple, natural way to support your mind and body. And for a short time only, LumiBox is offering my listeners an exclusive $260 discount. Just visit LumiBox.com and use the coupon code INSPIRINGHeights at checkout. Don't wait. This could be your next step towards holistic health. I'll put the link and the coupon code in the show notes. All right. Now let's move on to our top 5 tips for walking the tightrope of family dynamics during the holidays. Tip number 1, name your boundaries. I want to go on record here and say out loud, notice that I didn't say set your boundaries. Stay tuned, that's coming. But to start, we need to name our boundaries. This is done within the parameters of ourselves and or our nuclear families, i.e. our spouse and kids when appropriate and applicable. Boundaries sound like such a harsh word, rigid, structured, firm. And while we do want to hold our boundaries well, let me paint a slightly different picture of what they can feel like. This summer, I was listening to one of my favorite theologians, Amy Gannett, talk about taking a family vacation. At the time, Amy and her husband had 2 kids. Now they have 3, both under the age of 5. Now they had gone on a trip away from home with extended family. And one of the rhythms their nuclear family has adopted over the years is private family time each day for a couple of hours before supper. They go back to their hotel or their room, and the kids have what they call yellow light time, which just means quiet alone time to play. And while the kids are doing that, her and her husband, Austin, catch up and check in with each other. Then they prepare for dinner and reconnect with the rest of their party. When I heard her talk about this, I thought, that is so brilliant. Every time I go on a vacation with family or friends, I almost always have the same thought. And often this conversation comes up with someone on the trip. It goes like this. I love being together with everyone. It is so fun. And also, when it happens for multiple days at a time, it can have moments of overwhelm. Not because of any specific thing or person, but rather because we are used to our family structure, rhythms, routines, and dynamics. And when you add in all of that from everyone else in a larger party, it can feel like a lot sometimes. Perhaps you are sitting in Starbucks right now with your headphones on, pumping your hands up and down and screaming, "Preach, girl, preach," in your head, of course. Or maybe you're listening going, I don't quite relate. I love full-time togetherness with our family or friends on vacation, and I wish they could go on indefinitely. No matter which side of this specific fence that you sit on, don't miss my point. Family boundaries can be soft and beautiful. When you think about what boundaries you might need to set, I would encourage you to sit with a bit of reflection first. Consider past family events where people who will all be together for Christmas were together. How was it? What were the pain points? What do you not want to miss out on? We live in a world that can at times scream loudly about boundaries. Trust me, there is great benefit in boundaries. I am a big fan. And also, I think sometimes we can approach boundaries from a posture of building walls instead of building connection. Take Amy's example above. From her actions, we can deduce that Amy knew a little time away for her nuclear family to recalibrate would ultimately mean more enjoyable connection with the rest of the family for the rest of the evening. When we take time to pause and consider, instead of rush in with a spirit of confrontation, we can foster connection with our boundaries instead of piling up brick walls. In the Living in Christmas Present Guide, you will find a handful of questions to help you explore and name your boundaries. Tip number 2. Now that you have named your boundaries, it's time to place them into play. Some boundaries involve a conversation in advance. Others just require us to have a presence of mind to do things like avoid certain topics of conversation or walk away when we need to. Look through your boundary list that you've set and take a moment to determine, do I need to have a conversation about this boundary in advance? If the answer to that is yes, I would encourage you, practice your words first. Remember, we want our boundaries to foster connection. As we are laying our boundaries out, we want to try and avoid critical and demeaning language. We want to use I or we, in the case of your nuclear family, statements. And we want to make sure that we are helping the other person see our heart behind our boundary. Since we're already introduced to the concept, let's apply this to Amy's boundary. If you were setting this boundary with your family for the first time, you might want to avoid statements like this. The whole family gets to be too overwhelming for us, and we just need a break from you guys sometimes. So each day we plan to escape to our rooms for a couple hours before dinner, okay? Or, this family is a lot, and I'm just not used to this level of noisy chaos, so I will be retreating for a couple of hours to gain my sanity back each day. Let's be honest, there might be a touch of truth in these statements, okay? Okay. But a kinder, more connecting way to approach the conversation would be this. We love spending time with the family, and we really look forward to everyone being together. Hubby and I chatted, and our kids do so much better in get-togethers like these when we all can have a break away for a couple of hours to have some quiet time. I want to be sure that we don't mess up any plans, so I just wanted to let you know in advance that we will plan to sneak away for some quiet family time together for a couple hours each day around 4 p.m. Or, so excited for Christmas with the family. One of the things that we've come to recognize and embrace this year is that both hubby and I are introverts. So one of the ways that we feel like we can best show up and be present with our family for the week is if we take a little bit of time alone each day to quiet our brains and our hearts for a couple hours. By actively thinking about how we want to present the boundaries to our people, we can speak with a clarity of mind and a posture of connection. It's the good old adage, think before you speak. Tip number 3, plan an appropriate amount of time together. This is a touchy subject, so just hear me out. Around the holidays, there is a lot of excitement about getting together. That traditional song, "I'll Be Home for Christmas," comes to mind. We plan a week-long get-together with our families. We pile in our cars full of presents and Christmas goodies, and we are off with the biggest smiles on our faces. That is until day 3 shows up and we have had just about enough of Aunt Joyce's critical looks and Uncle Ed's constant chatter about the Seattle Seahawks. We get excited about spending time with our family, and we can sort of forget that more isn't always more. We get into Hallmark Christmas movie mode, and we're just thinking about baking Christmas cookies and decorating gingerbread houses and watching A Christmas Carol together. And we forget that we actually connect best when it's only for 2 or 3 days at a time rather than 7 or 8. But we do eventually remember, and then we kick ourselves and we say, I am never doing this again, except then next year, the Christmas bug bites again and history repeats itself. Perhaps you've already committed to an extended amount of time with your family and you're wishing I would have dropped this advice in your earbud last month. If that's you, this is my best advice. Plan an outing or 2 that gets you out of the house and focused on other things during your visit. Oh, and bring a couple good books. If you haven't yet committed, but you know the pressure for a long stay is inevitable, lean in. First, if it is at all possible to have an open and honest conversation with your family about how a week is just too long and you want to connect well with each other, not smother one another, then have it. It just might be incredibly freeing for both you and them. If your circumstances don't allow for that, for whatever reason, here's a couple ideas. Plan for another time to get together in the coming months. Having a shorter stay can be softened by having another stay on the calendar, even if it's a couple months down the road. Plan for a very present few days. Leave your phone in your room, don't bring your laptop with you, and commit to finishing your favorite book when you return home. Give your people your undivided attention as much as possible. This will help them know that you are serious about connecting, which you are, by the way. You just know that connection turns into a pumpkin when the clock strikes midnight. Offer to help plan your time together to ensure that you can pack in all the fun that your host has in mind. If they're disappointed you won't be able to stay a week, you could say something like, I know you're disappointed we can't be there longer. Is there anything I can do to help ensure we can pack in all the fun you had in mind? Friend, this is touchy. But remember, our aim is connection more than it is bragging rights for spending one whole week with our family at Christmas. If connection happens best in shorter stints, then let's make a shorter stay a priority. Tip number 4. Try to include moments in the time together that feels relaxing to you. We are best able to connect with our people when we feel like ourselves. There are many components to this, but one is to have moments of relaxation. This doesn't have to be monumental. I'm for sure not talking about building in a spa treatment on Christmas Day, but thinking ahead to the little things that relax you and working to include them into the holiday can be helpful. This could be things like you love a piping hot cup of coffee with a dash of heavy cream, and you know that your sister's house where you're going doesn't keep heavy cream. So you bring a pint and you put it in the fridge for personal use each morning. Or you love to start each day stretching on your yoga mat. You know that the room you're sleeping in doesn't have a ton of space, so you bring your yoga mat and you set an alarm for a smidge earlier than everyone else so you can move your yoga mat out into the hallway and stretch your heart out. Perhaps you're an essential oil girly and you understand the science behind aromatherapy. You know your parents aren't huge fans of essential oils, so you bring your own personal inhaler diffuser so you can use the oils that work best to relax you without imposing on others around you. Like I said, this doesn't have to be overly complex. If we can just be aware going into the holiday, we can help ourselves relax and in turn show up well for our family. Tip number 5. If possible, find a safe person and have a secret code for tapping out. I seen this on a parenting video on Instagram not too long ago. The tip was for a husband and wife to come up with a non-obvious tapping out code for when they needed help and support from their spouse during a hard parenting moment. This allows for the non-escalated parent to intervene and the worked up parent to take a breath. That principle applies here too. If you're married, this most certainly could be your spouse. If you're not married or your spouse isn't the right person for this, maybe it's a sibling, a parent, an aunt, an uncle, or a grandparent. Before the gathering, have a conversation with that person and talk about tapping in and tapping out. I once had a friend tell me that when her husband taps her leg 3 times, it's the sign that he's ready to go home. She will always work to wrap up the conversation politely so that they can make an exit. It has saved many an awkward moments of her husband having to verbalize that he's ready to vamoose. Perhaps the leg tap is the sign, or perhaps it's something different. And maybe it isn't to leave. Maybe it's a please help. I'm going to say something I'm going to regret soon, SOS. Whatever it is for you, if you are walking into a more complicated family dynamic, having a person in your corner that you know you can count on and who can count on you can be reassuring when the pressure starts to build. Family dynamics can be tricky, especially during the holiday season with the added pressure of happy togetherness. But having some tools and preparation for the time can help us to navigate some of those touchier moments with confidence. As I mentioned in the show, I created a holiday conversation cheat sheet just for you. This is a free gift to help you navigate some of those tricky Christmas dinner conversations. Just head over to inspiringheights.org/conversation cheat sheet. Enter your email address and the gift will be promptly dropped in your inbox. Again, that's inspiringheights.org/conversation cheat sheet. I will also drop this link for you in the show notes. Before I go, I wanted to share something special with you. I have created a free personal strategic planning guide designed to help you close out 2024 and step into 2025 with life-giving intentionality. It's a gift to support you as you plan for a meaningful and productive year ahead. You can grab your copy at inspiringheights.org/freebies/2025 personal strat plan. That's inspiringheights.org/freebies/2025 personal strat plan. I'll also drop a link in the show notes to make it easy on you. And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Do you have questions, comments, or insights on today's content? I would love to hear from you. You can DM me on Facebook or Instagram, or head over to our website, inspiringheights.org, and click on the Contact Us form. I will link all those locations here in the show notes. P.S. If you haven't already, I would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and a quick review of the podcast. This helps get our content in the hands of new listeners. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and follow us on social media for rhythmic doses of inspiration. All right, friends, take a deep breath and be inspired where your feet are. Bye for now.